A person turned an ordinary diner into a sanctuary of warmth and friendship. But then the bonds forged in such a place were suddenly ripped apart. A beloved community figure is tragically taken away. For nearly 24 years, this tragic demise remained a mystery. Stephen Davis was a 46-year-old man who stayed in Pensacola, Florida. He was a cab driver for Yellow Cab Taxi. His regular presence at the local Waffle House was as reliable as the sunrise, and his easygoing demeanor made him a natural at forming connections with patrons and staff alike. The Waffle House had become more than just a diner for Stephen. It was a home away from home, where he forged bonds that extended beyond the clinking of silverware and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. On August 26, 1998, an ominous cloud settled over the once inviting Waffle House as news spread of the tragic events that had befallen Stephen Davis. In the quiet pre-dawn hours, Stephen found himself embroiled in a terrifying encounter that would forever alter the course of his life. As he approached his cab, parked in the shadows of the early morning, he was unaware of the menace lurking within the vehicle. A man, concealed in the darkness, lay in wait for Stephen, setting the stage for a horrific ambush. Panic ensued as Stephen, sensing imminent danger, desperately attempted to flee from the assailant. As he bolted from the car, the attacker opened fire, and a hail of bullets pierced the stillness of the Pensacola night. Despite his frantic efforts to escape, Stephen was struck multiple times, once in the jaw and twice in his right posterior thorax, and his life hung in the balance. With every ounce of strength he could muster, Stephen staggered towards the nearby Winn-Dixie, hoping to find help and refuge from his assailant. Tragically, he collapsed in the parking lot, his life ebbing away as the gravity of his injuries took their toll. The glow of the streetlights illuminated the gruesome scene as Stephen succumbed to his wounds. In the aftermath of the horrific attack, Stephen's car was discovered near Navy Boulevard, its driver's door and rear passenger doors left ominously ajar. The shattered driver's side window bore testament to the violence that had unfolded, offering a chilling glimpse into the chaos that had transpired. An immediate investigation was launched, with law enforcement officials working tirelessly to uncover any leads that could shed light on the identity of the perpetrator. Yet, as the case progressed, it became increasingly clear that the lack of witnesses and physical evidence presented a formidable challenge. Despite countless efforts and the occasional tip, the passage of time seemed only to deepen the enigma of Stephen's case. The unwavering determination of investigators to bring justice to Stephen Davis and his loved ones culminated in a significant breakthrough nearly a quarter of a century after his tragic demise. In 2022, the investigation into Stephen's case was reopened, and through the utilization of advanced forensic technology, a bloody fingerprint from the scene was meticulously examined. This led investigators to identify Donald Holmes as the prime suspect. At the time of this discovery, Holmes was already serving a 20-year sentence in a Florida state prison for a home invasion robbery that occurred in Escambia County in 2012. Initially set for release in 2032, Holmes now faces new charges for the slaying of Stephen Davis. This will ensure that he will be held accountable for the heinous crime. The announcement made by the Escambia County Sheriff's Office on March 5, 2024, brought a long-awaited sense of closure to Stephen's family and friends. The relentless pursuit of justice, coupled with the remarkable advancements in forensic science, enabled detectives to finally connect the fingerprint to Holmes, ultimately solving the mystery that had haunted the community for over 24 years. Stephen's sisters, Ruby Kastner and Julie MacArthur, said that he was known for being very friendly and helpful to anyone. Ruby said, "He was a big bear. He was there for everybody. He got a lot of people off illegal substances." As the legal proceedings against Donald Holmes ensue, the memory of Stephen Davis lives on. In a turn of events that has stunned both Los Angeles and Northern California, a cold case from 1984 has suddenly reignited public interest. Found beaten and lifeless in a Roseville alley, Madeline Garcia's case went cold for decades, leaving unanswered questions that have finally found answers decades later. Madeline Garcia, born in Chico, California to Spanish immigrant parents, lived a life rich in cultural heritage and community spirit. Growing up in Rockland and East Sacramento, California, she was cherished for her warmth and generosity. After marrying Frank Garcia, she made a home in East Sacramento, where she was known for her exceptional cooking, vibrant gardens, and creative crafts. In the late 1970s, Madeline moved to South Placer, continuing her commitment to her community. She lived a quiet life, but at the age of 69, that life would be tragically cut short. On the morning of September 26, 1984, Madeline Garcia was found in an alleyway on the 300 block of Atlantic Street. Madeline, known for her early morning walks on her distinctive tricycle, had been collecting cans when she was attacked. A witness discovered her body partially concealed behind the West House Hotel and Saloon. The scene was one of unspeakable violence. She had been beaten, with the ferocity of the assault so intense that her dentures were thrown from the scene. The police who arrived on the scene were confronted with a grim discovery, as her body also bore signs of an assault. In the wake of Madeline's tragic demise, the Roseville Police Department launched an exhaustive investigation into her vicious slaying. Detectives canvassed the area, interviewing residents and tracking down any potential leads. Detective James Fujitani and evidence technician Gary DeMille Lwandori worked diligently at the crime scene, but progress was slow. The investigation was briefly redirected when a double slaying surfaced, and although Fujitani managed to secure convictions in those cases, Madeline's case remained unresolved. Years passed, and as the case grew colder, new detectives like Kurt Leatherman and Mary Green picked up the case. Leatherman, in particular, made significant strides by aligning the evidence with advancements in forensic technology and clearing numerous suspects. But even with these renewed efforts, Madeline's case remained unsolved, and the hope for resolution seemed increasingly distant. The breakthrough came decades later with advancements in DNA technology and investigative techniques. In 2024, investigators employed familial DNA testing. This technique revealed a match linking Richard Moore, a man with a history of arson near the crime scene, to the unsolved case. This new development prompted a renewed push to locate Moore, who had since relocated to Los Angeles. As the case was reactivated, the technology and persistence of investigators led to Moore's arrest on June 27, 2024. Moore was transported back to Placer County, where he faced charges involving the slaying of Madeline Garcia, as well as kidnapping and assault. Neighbors who lived by Moore in a quiet Echo Park neighborhood said they were in disbelief over the allegations, with many saying the man seemed friendly and helpful. One neighbor said, "It has been a shock to learn that something so crazy is happening with someone who we live near to. He was always pretty friendly. I rode my bicycle by one time, and he asked if I needed to air my tires." Moore's initial court appearance on July 8, 2024, was the beginning of the judicial process. Moore, who entered a not guilty plea, was appointed a public defender as the case proceeded through the legal system. His arraignment set the stage for a trial that would test the strength of the evidence and the effectiveness of the new forensic methods used to crack the case. As the legal proceedings continues, Madeline's family and the Roseville community waits for a resolution. Terry Middlecoff, Madeline's oldest granddaughter, said Moore's arrest was bittersweet. She said, "It is a bittersweet moment. I can only hope my grandkids remember me the way that I remember her." The arrest not only brought renewed attention to Madeline's case, but also provided a glimmer of closure after decades of uncertainty and grief. Dennis Leroy Wood, a 71-year-old man known for his gentle nature and love for solitude, lived peacefully in Moore Park, California. His days were spent in tranquility, a simple routine that provided comfort in his later years. But on April 16, 2004, Dennis's world was turned upside down in a way no one could have predicted. Dennis Leroy Wood's day that began as a seemingly ordinary day would soon spiral into a nightmarish event that no one could have predicted. But then deputies with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to his home on the 12500 block of Mountain Trail Street. The visit was part of a routine wellness check, prompted by concerns from neighbors who had not seen or heard from Dennis in several days. The deputies approached the home, unaware that they were about to uncover a grim scene. As the deputies arrived at the property, there was an unsettling silence surrounding the house. The once cozy and peaceful home seemed eerily quiet, with no signs of life. After receiving no response to their knocks, the deputies decided to enter the residence. What they found inside was far more horrifying than they had anticipated. The lifeless body of Dennis lay in the home. The elderly homeowner, who had always kept to himself, was found deceased from at least one gunshot wound. The discovery marked the beginning of a complex investigation. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office quickly ruled Dennis's demise as a slaying. Who could have committed such a heinous act against someone as harmless as Dennis? There were no immediate signs of forced entry, and nothing appeared to be stolen from the home, deepening the mystery surrounding Dennis's demise. Was this a random act of violence, or was there something more sinister at play? The investigation revealed disturbing details about the final moments of his life. It was determined that he had lost his life due to multiple gunshot wounds, with injuries to both his head and chest. Even more unsettling was the fact that Dennis's body had gone undiscovered for nearly 2 weeks. During that time, his home, once a haven of peace, had become the silent witness to a horrifying crime. Detectives interviewed neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have had contact with Dennis in the days leading up to the slaying. They pursued every lead, hoping to uncover something that would point them in the direction of the perpetrator. But despite their efforts, the case remained a mystery. The detectives quickly realized that the case was more complex than they initially thought. There were no clear signs of a break-in, and nothing of significant value appeared to be missing from the home. The absence of an obvious motive made it difficult for investigators to identify a suspect. With no clear direction, the case began to stall. Over the years, the case of Dennis remained a haunting, unsolved mystery for the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. Investigators would occasionally reevaluate the case, hoping that advancements in forensic technology or a fresh perspective might shed new light on the crime. Despite their efforts, the case remained cold, with no significant breakthroughs. However, that all changed on May 14, 2024, when the Sheriff's Office made a stunning announcement. They had uncovered new evidence that allegedly linked a man named Namey to the slaying of Dennis. After 20 years of uncertainty, there was finally a glimmer of hope that justice would be served. Authorities were tight-lipped about the specifics of the new evidence, citing the ongoing investigation and legal proceedings. The details of how Namey was connected to the crime and the nature of the evidence remained undisclosed. This left many to speculate about what had led to this unexpected breakthrough. One thing was clear: the case had taken a significant turn. On the morning of May 14, 2024, Namey was arrested around 11 a.m. by Ventura County deputies. Namey was quickly transferred to the Ventura County Jail, where he now awaits charges for first-degree slaying. With bail set at $2 million, Namey remained in custody as the legal process began to unfold. The arrest of Namey brought a measure of closure to the 20-year-old cold case. For the family and friends of Dennis Leroy Wood, the news was bittersweet. A mix of relief that someone had finally been held accountable, and sorrow for the years of pain and uncertainty they had endured. In July 1977, the remains of an unidentified individual were discovered in Yakima, Washington. An employee from a hardware store contacted police after noticing a distinct odor coming from a parked van in a parking lot near the hardware store. Officers with the Yakima Police Department responded to the scene where they found the remains of an individual hidden inside of an abandoned vehicle. 2 days later, an autopsy was performed. The autopsy determined that the remains were that of a young female. She was approximately 18 to 25 years old. She was around 5 feet 8 inches tall and estimated to be 130 pounds. The autopsy concluded that she had sustained several injuries. The woman's cause of demise was determined to be strangulation, and her manner of demise was slaying. She had been hit on the head 3 times with a heavy object, mutilated, and left face down on her hands and knees in the back of the van. She wore only light-colored socks. A green sweater had been placed over the upper part of her body. Other clothing that was found near the woman's body included a yellow handmade dress, white underwear stenciled with Scott Lily 2H, blue corduroy Farrah, brand jeans, and a blue shirt. Attempts to identify the woman through dental and FBI fingerprint records were unsuccessful. Dental records were created from the remains and compared to several missing women from jurisdictions around the country. Unfortunately, there were no matches. Numerous individuals were interviewed. Several tips regarding the woman's identity were received from all over the country. However, no leads materialized into an identification for the woman or her perpetrator. The woman, who became known as Yakima Jane Doe, was buried in a Washington cemetery. In 2004, with advancements in forensic science, further attempts to identify the woman were made. At the request of the Yakima Police Department, the Yakima County Coroner's Office exhumed the remains of the unidentified woman. The remains were provided to the King County Medical Examiner's Office for further forensic evaluation. The remains were then submitted to the University of North Texas for the development of an STR profile. The STR profile was uploaded into CODIS in 2005. No matches were found. The identity of Yakima Jane Doe remained a mystery despite the extensive efforts of law enforcement. In April 2016, details of the case were entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. In 2022, the Yakima Police Department submitted forensic evidence to Othram. They were hoping that advanced DNA testing could assist in the identification of Yakima Jane Doe. Othram scientists used forensic-grade genome sequencing to build a comprehensive genealogical profile for the slain woman. Othram's in-house forensic genetic genealogy team then used this profile to conduct extensive genetic genealogy research. This provided new investigative leads to law enforcement. A follow-up investigation was conducted using these new leads. Investigators identified potential relatives of the woman after many interviews and conversations. A reference DNA sample was collected from a potential relative and compared to the DNA profile of the woman. This comparison confirmed the identity of Yakima Jane Doe as Vereta Joni Gates, born on October 21st, 1952. If alive today, Joni would be 71 years old. Joni was described by her family as a wanderer. She was known to hitchhike between Vermont and New York, where she was from, as well as to the West Coast. In early July 1977, less than 2 weeks before her remains were discovered in Yakima, Joni was known to be in a hospital near Chicago. Joni's family spent decades searching for her, not knowing until now what happened to her. Immediate family surviving Joni are her sister, Mary Lee, and her 2 brothers, Jeffrey and David. The identification of their sister has brought closure to their family after a 45-year search for her and for a wound that never healed. Her siblings wish to thank everybody involved for all their hard work in identifying Joni. Joseph Canazaro, a well-known entrepreneur in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, seemed to have it all. A successful career, thriving businesses, and a loving family. But on January 18th, 2013, his promising future was shattered when 2 armed men invaded his home, leading to a crime that would send shockwaves through Lansdale. For years, the mystery surrounding his case lingered until a breakthrough brought long-awaited answers. This is a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of justice for a life taken too soon. Joseph Canazaro's roots were deeply embedded in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, where he spent much of his early life. From a young age, he was known for his industrious nature, working tirelessly to carve out a successful career within his community. Joseph's drive and determination made him a familiar face in Lansdale, especially as he became involved in various local businesses. His entrepreneurial spirit shone through when he co-owned Finn McCool's Tavern in Ambler, Pennsylvania, a lively establishment that quickly became a community staple. This venture was just the beginning of Joseph's expanding business interests, as he soon ventured into contracting, establishing multiple companies that solidified his reputation as a savvy businessman. With success came growth, and Joseph was not one to shy away from new opportunities. He began acquiring properties, taking on mortgages to broaden his portfolio and secure his financial future. One of these acquisitions was a Lansdale auto garage, adding yet another asset to his growing collection. His ventures made him a well-known figure, recognized not only for his business acumen, but also for his dedication to the local community. Despite his many responsibilities, Joseph managed to create a life of relative comfort. He balanced his numerous ventures with the demands of property ownership and business management. However, beneath the surface, the pressures of his expanding empire began to mount. As Joseph's career flourished, so did the demands on his time and energy. The weight of managing multiple businesses and properties brought increased stress, yet Joseph remained a resilient and determined individual. However, Joseph's life took a sudden and tragic turn on January 18, 2013. That morning, just after 10 a.m., the police received a chilling 911 call from a residence on the 300 block of Swartley Road in Hilltown Township. The call, though brief, sent alarm bells ringing for the dispatchers. Despite their efforts, the connection was lost before they could gather more information, leaving an uneasy silence on the other end. Within minutes, another call came in, this time from a nearby house. A woman, her voice filled with terror, explained that she was calling from her neighbor's home. She relayed a horrifying story to the dispatchers. 2 armed men had broken into her home, taken her family hostage, and abducted her fiancé, who was later identified as Joseph Canazaro. She also reported that the intruders had stolen his pickup truck and other valuables from the property. The urgency of the situation spurred police into immediate action. They raced to the scene, fearing the worst, but hoping to prevent further violence. Upon arrival, officers began to search the premises for any sign of Joseph or the assailants. Their search led them to the garage, where they made a grim discovery. There, they found Joseph's lifeless body, his hands cruelly bound with zip ties. The scene was one of unimaginable violence. The marks of a brutal struggle were evident. The officers knew that this was no ordinary robbery. It was a calculated and cold-blooded act of slaying. As investigators combed through the evidence, the details of Joseph's final moments began to emerge. An autopsy later confirmed the fears of the officers on the scene. Joseph had passed away due to multiple stab wounds. His demise was officially ruled a slaying, but the investigation had only just begun. The search for the perpetrators and the motive behind such a heinous act became the focus of law enforcement, who worked tirelessly to piece together the events that led to this tragedy. The once vibrant and successful entrepreneur, who had built a life of hard work and dedication, had met a violent and untimely end. Detectives quickly interviewed Joseph Canazaro's fiancée, who recounted the terrifying events of that morning. She explained how 2 gunmen broke into their home and confronted her and Joseph in their bedroom, tying their hands and legs with zip ties. After Joseph's 12-year-old son entered the bedroom, one of the men put a knife to his throat and bound him with zip ties as well. His eldest son was at school while this happened. One intruder led Joseph through the house, while the other stayed with her and Joseph's young son. The situation turned even more horrifying when the second gunman took her into another room and assaulted her. The men stole jewelry, guns, and money. After the men left, she managed to free herself and the boy, escaping to a neighbor's house to call 911. As the investigation unfolded, crucial evidence emerged. In the years before his slaying, Joseph had incurred millions in debt, including money owed to various casinos. He claimed bankruptcy on $10 million in debt and later settled 2 federal lawsuits involving passing bad checks. Surveillance footage from that day showed the suspects unloading items from Joseph's stolen pickup truck behind a Friendly's restaurant in Quakertown. Later, officers found the abandoned truck with a pair of gardening gloves nearby, which were sent to the FBI for analysis. The gloves revealed DNA from an unknown male, matching the DNA profile obtained from the assault examination of Joseph's fiancée. Investigators also discovered 11 cell phones in the victim's home, of which 8 were usable. The detectives also found a black face mask in the stolen truck. A DNA analysis in 2020 linked the mask to Thomas Delgado, whose phone records showed multiple contacts with Joseph in 2011. This was 2 years before the home invasion. However, Joseph's fiancée stated she did not know Delgado, nor did anyone in their home own a mask like the one found. Delgado was arrested and charged with nearly 36 offenses, including slaying, assault, and kidnapping. With bail denied, Delgado remains in custody as investigators continue to piece together the full story behind this tragic crime. The arrest of Thomas Delgado brought a significant breakthrough in the case of Joseph Canazaro, offering a glimmer of justice for a community and family deeply affected by his tragic demise. While the scars of that brutal day will remain, the pursuit of justice continues as Delgado faces numerous charges. While Delgado is in custody, police continues to search for the second suspect. If you have any information on the case of Joseph Canazaro, please call Bucks County Detectives at 215-348-6354 or Hilltown Township Police at 215-453-6011.